Hey everyone, so welcome back to this another series in the Hola JavaScript. So today we're going to cover a very important topic, the most important functional programming in JavaScript that we're going to cover. So before that, we have discussed more about the object-oriented programmings, and we heard a lot about object-oriented programmings and how it is working. So what is that basically the object-oriented and everything we have cleared out. So here we just go into dive deep into the concept of functional oriented programming. So how JavaScript is handled the functional oriented programming we're going to discuss about. Yes. Before that, I just want to make a point clear that JavaScript is object oriented and also a functional oriented. It is dynamic, like you can able to use both the things. Okay, so it's not only an object oriented programming and not only a functional oriented programming. So JavaScript is both. If you type whether JavaScript, just Google it, you can find out the answer, like whether JavaScript is a function oriented and class based, object oriented. You can find out JavaScript is both. So the answer is just pretty straightforward. JavaScript is can able to do both. So JavaScript is do the functional oriented and also object oriented. But in object oriented, they have specifically mentioned out a point. So what they have mentioned means JavaScript is an object oriented programming language, but not class based. They have been mentioned as. So let me check that first of all. So I just say is JS is function or object oriented programming. If I just click it, you can able to see wherever place here you can see JavaScript is not a class based. You can see mentioned a specific thing, class based object oriented programming, but it still has the ways of using the object oriented programming. They have been this is a free program they have been mentioned out. And okay, so yeah, here JavaScript is both functional as well as object-oriented programming language. The only thing is it is not a class-based object-oriented programming. But here it you will comes it down. So we have a class in JavaScript, right? So but they mentioned it as Javs class is not an object or class is not in JavaScript. Then what is this classes? Actually, here in other programming language, if you take classes is actually a concept, like how we seeing the functions, objects, like that. Classes is also an actual concept, but here classes is just a syntactic sugar of prototypal inheritance. Okay, so just a syntactic to a sugar of prototypal inheritance to understand better. So that is why it has been that. But actual thing is classes are not class based object oriented programming is not here, but other programming class based object oriented is there. Okay, okay, so that is the one thing we will discuss those things in the prototypal inheritance when it comes to that very clearly. But the thing is here you need to understand is JavaScript capable to do both function and also object oriented. Okay, so that's the one thing. Okay, so why it is so flexible? Because the person who created JavaScript, Brendan Eich, he inspired from two languages. Okay, so what are the languages? One is schema and another one is Java. So you may hear about a lot of controversy because of Java, why it is named as JavaScript, right? So actually the person Brendan Eich is inspired from these two languages, and he was also subjected to build something that is similar to Java syntax, but similar to Java, but not exactly the Java. So it should run in the browser. Okay. So he takes inspiration from these two languages. So we know that Java is an object-oriented, highly object-oriented programming language, and Schema is a function-oriented programming language. So with the help of these two things only, that he come up with a language called JavaScript, and specifically he not used the classes in JavaScript. So the why the reason the Brendan Eich tell the reason, right? Because if the classes is added in JavaScript, then it might be there is no difference between Java and JavaScript, right? So only the syntax is changing, but pretty everything is going to be same. So that's what it's going to be. So that's what he also feel. So that is why he purposely avoided the classes in JavaScript. Okay. So right now we are using classes. It is introduced in ES6 just for a syntactic sugar. So instead of using some of the prototyping words, I just want to avoid it. So that's why they have been using this. Okay. So that's what it is here. Okay, so now let us go into the concept of closure. So closure is much more functional oriented. We know JavaScript, the functions are more flexible and it is treated as a first class citizen. So what is mean by that? So JavaScript treats function as a first class citizen, which means we can do a lot of things in function. Let us see the three important things that the function can capable to do in JavaScript, but no other languages is not. And not all other languages, some languages is not. Okay, so let's see what is the thing. So if you know some other languages, that you can feel what is this, what kind of function work it is, like that you can feel. But that is what actually JavaScript can able to do. So that is why JavaScript treats their function as a first class citizen. That is what in JavaScript the functions are much more powerful. So let's see that. So we know that higher order functions and so much of things. Let us go and see one by one. So the first thing is storing a function in an variable, right? So function in a variable, we can mention this as function as a variable. So it is actually JavaScript has, but some other programming is not. For example, this type of function, we know that, like, I create a variable const a is equal to function a. Function I just simply give like this, and we will do this. And if I say console.log b like this, and if I ask for console.log a, and if we run it, we will get the function what it is, what is the function is of, we will get it. And if I want to run this function, just I will just want to use the parenthesis. Now the function is going to execute, and you will receive the parenthesis here. Okay, so that is exactly what we are getting. Okay, you can able to see, don't care about this undefined, this is because we don't return anything, right? So if I simply return b, this is actually valid because we are using console here. If I do this, you will get this b, right? So this is actually valid. We can able to store a function inside and variable, and this is called as expression type of function. So we have two things, right? So the declaration type of declaring a function, and an expression type of declaring a function, right? So this is the one way. So now we are having the second thing. So this is the one reason. And second, the function can able to do in JavaScript is passing a function as an argument. Well, in short form, we call it as a callbacks, right? So what is that? So we have a function. I want to pass that function as an argument to another function. Let's see how we can achieve that. If I create a function, so I just say display. So this is my function, and it is going to display something. I just say sum, and here in the console display it, display whatever the sum that you are getting. And here I creating another function, I just say add, and here we have a, b, and also an callback. So I just say cb like this. And here I just create a logic like let sum equal to, and here I just say a plus b, whatever the parameter that you are receiving, you just want to sum it. And once that is done, just you need to call the cb and pause the sum here. Okay, so now you can able to see the structure. If you not able to understand, that is fine. So here if I write to call this add function, if I say add, I need to give three parameters, right? So the first parameter is going to be a number. So I just say 20, 30. Okay, it is both a number. And what is the third parameter? You can able to see I use the third parameter and passing somewhere, right? So what I can able to do means I can able to pass the function as an argument, as a function as an argument to another function. So now this entire function is stored inside the CB, and whenever this values get passed, that value is going to call this. So if I clear and if I run it, you can able to see it will be work 50. So which means the answer what we are getting is 50, the 20 plus 30, it will be work. So it prints me in the console. So this is actually called as callbacks. So this callback section, it's really helpful when we see it in the asynchronous concept. We will discuss that much deeper. So it is something more sequence control, focusing on the control of a function. So once this function is get executed, then what I need to do, I just want to run this function. So I'm add it to that function, and that function is going to display me and another function, and that function what it is going to do, it is going to replace me. Okay, so that's what here we will do. So if I say return like this, and if I run it, absolutely valid, that's also. So the function is going to return this function, and this value is taken, and this function is going to be there. If I change the value to 44 and just simply clear and run it, so it is going to be do that. So what is actually happening here? Simply, so the function is going to run this function, and once the function is run, it is going to return where the place it is get evoked, right? So it is just want to go here. So that's what it is going to do. So this is going to be the callbacks. Okay, so this is called as callbacks, and this is also a function can do in JavaScript. Okay, so the last and final thing is a function can return another function, not exactly like this. It is completely valid like this. What is I mean? So let us see that. So when I create, so I just remove this. Okay, so right now these two things are basics. We already know it in the basic function. So when I create a function, I just say buy food. Okay, let us say this is a function, and this function is has a variable. I just say food. Let food equal to food. I just say mention it's pizza like this. Okay, and here inside this I can create another function that is going to do eat food. Okay, and here I just say console.log food is eaten. I just simply say done like this. Okay, and here I can return a function as an result. Okay, for example, I just return eat food like this. So what I'm doing, so I'm creating a function. Okay, I'm creating a function. That function is going to return another function. That's what actually we are doing, right? So the callbacks are different. So they are calling another function that is in some other memory space. So this function, it is located inside here, the lexical environment. You can see the variables are the same environment and the functions are same environment. And you can see return eat food, right? So we are returning the eat food functions. And here I just going to say const. If I ask for by, if I call the function like by good. Okay, let us make it much more syntax better. I like this. And if I ask in the console to run this function, what going to happen? This function is going to return as another function. You can see it is going to return this eat food function. So in our console, we will receive the eat food function. So by food is not defined. Okay, I think it scams, right? Sorry. Okay, I clear, and if I run it, you can see it is returning a eat food. So if I want to run this function, then what I need to do, either you can execute and again, so this is going to execute by food, and whatever it is returning, it is a function that is going to execute by this thing. So now if I run, we will get this done. You can see we will getting this done. So this is also completely possible. This is quite hierarchy of functions. So a function can return and another function. Okay, so that is also completely possible in JavaScript. So because of these things, like a function can able to store it in a memory and function can able to store it in here. So and also callbacks, these things, functions or a special, uh, they have special rights in JavaScript. They can able to do whatever they want, right? So it is something that is not present in some other programming languages. Okay, so here comes the actual concept of closure also. So what is actually a closure it is? So let us imagine here, it look like simple when I call like const result, okay, equal to by foot like this, right? Like this. And if I call console.log result, you guess the answer what it is going to be. So it is going to be the eat food function, right? It is going to be eat food function. It is going to return me a function. And if I execute this eat food function, then it is going to return me console.log done, right? Right? So it is will be perfect. Okay. So what if instead of console.log done, I ask for this variable, what I will get. So it look like simple. You may answer it like, okay, so this is a function. The function in its lexical environment, it doesn't have the variable food. So it is go for the global input. So like we speak about the scopes, right? So it is go for the top and look for here. Okay, so it is having the food. Okay, it is having the food and it is going to return as far as. So that is what we actually think, right? Actually, that is correct also. If I run this, you can see we will get pizza. That is fine. That is actually correct also. But it is not the way that we are thinking. So here comes the closer. into picture. So what is that means? Here you need to understand the flow of it. If I don't return anything, I just simply call a function. If this is a function and this is a function, then here it is a callback function, right? So what is going to happen once this function is run, and we are going to run this function, right? So let us see, for example, if I run like this, this is a callback function, right? So if I clear and if I execute it, you can see the result is not defined. That is fine, because we don't want to run this. I just remove this. Okay, I simply call the buy food, and if I run it, you can able to see we will get the pizza. So what is happening? Let us understand what is callback it is. So when I evoke the function buy food, okay. So in call stack, this buy food is evoked, and once the function creates a variable and does all the things, it is going to evoke another thing that is going to be eat food. So it is on the top of it, like this: eat food, right? So it is on the top of it. So here it is on the top of it. So this function is look for, like, okay, so I just want to need a food, but it is doesn't have. So it is what it will go top for it, and it is look for whether this parent, so where it is evoked, right? So he has that value or not, right? So that is called a scoping chain. We have discussed about the scope chain. So here there is no food is there, so he look for who called it. So or you, do you have anything, right? So if you run this one outside the function also, like this, and if you run it, you can see this, you will get an error, food is not defined. Why? Because right now this function, right, this function is not in the lexical environment of this one, right? So we cannot access it. But if I run something like this, okay, so now what happened, it is in the lexical environment of this. So instead of directly going for the windows, it is first go for the food chain, and then only what it is happen, it is going to do this. Okay, so this is how it will work. But if I put return something like this, now what's going to happen, what's going to happen, just imagine what is going to happen. If I just run the function, the buy food is get added, and once the buy food is added, what is going to happen, it is going to return something. So once it reaches the return statement, right? Once it is reaches the return statement, it is going to remove from the call stack, right? It is just get removed from the call stack, and what is it just returned? It is just returning another function, right? So that function is just going to call. So if I say eat food, like here we can call like this, evoke the function like this, okay? So I just say eat food like this. So this is take into picture. So eat food will be the picture. So now let us think about that. When the function is right now, the function is not in memory. It just run its works and it just gone. So which means whatever the thing that it is created. So whatever the variables function that is in the lexical environment, it is also gone, right? So we know that. So inside the function, we are creating a variable. So it is a temporary variable, right? So it is not a permanent one. So once the function is running, the variable is get evoked, and once the function is closed, the variable is going to be dead, right? So just it's just removed from the memory. So right now you can see once the byfoot function returns, once the byfoot function returns something, what is going to happen? So this is going to end. So this function is no longer in the memory, no longer in the call stack. It is just get removed, right? It just gets removed from the place where it is evoked. So but once this function is evoked, you can able to see that it is asking for food, but it is capable to get this food, but it is not in the memory. So what is that? So here comes the closer. So what is closer is actually, it is a closer is like an lexical environment. So whenever a function is created, it a special type of memory is created for it, for the box. So whatever the variables and whatever the functions that are created, it will store those references inside the closer box. So even though the functions is not going to execute anymore, even though functions is not going to run, or they are not going to be in the memory anymore, we can able to still access those values. So you can see this function is not in memory anymore after it returns the statement, but we can able to access the value of it. So how? Because of the closure. So a special type of closure is created, and inside the closure we are storing everything. So whenever we want, we are go for the closures, and we are also checking that whether it is existed or not. You can either like this, and it will be really useful when you create like this. If I say food, okay. Now if I passing the food here, pizza, and if I clear and I run it, you can see not only the variables or the functions that is going to store inside a closure, but also the parameters, whatever that the function creates, everything is just stored inside the closure. So inside the closure, what you can able to do, you can able to see the special type of memory is created, and we can able to access it. And this is a very very introduction, just an introduction of JavaScript. Okay, so the closest things we are having, so we're going to deep dive into the closer, and we're going to see much more when into the upcoming classes also. Okay, so the only thing here you can able to see, if a function is nested inside this function, so this function lexical environment is this, and this function lexical environment is this. What is the lexical environment? A function's space, right? So it has the different universe space, right? So closest is nothing but whenever a function returns another function, so it is creating a binding environment of its own lexical environment. So it just create a binding environment of its own lexical environment, and whatever the variables, arguments, and name of the function, whatever it is declared, we can able to still access it even it is not exist in the memory. So that simply we can understand with the keyboard, like the child function is always access to the parents memory, but you cannot access, but the parent cannot access child thing. Okay, so only the function that is tested inside can able to access its lexical binding environment. Okay, so it can able to do it. So this is a brief introduction about clauses. We will discuss about the clauses and where it is using, and why we are using, and pretty everything in the next upcoming series. So don't miss to watch the follow series. If you really like this, give a like and subscribe for this channel, and we will come up with the next upcoming series about clauses in the next class. Thank you.